Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. No storms yet. Welcome. All right. So it is April. It feels a little bit like July right now. Storms might indicate a little bit like June. So stay safe out there. But thanks for attending. I have a few items I would like to go over just very briefly. And this gives you a little bit of time to think of like wins or recognitions you would like to share with us. But just a few things from me. This meeting, we were at the Quest conference. So let me back up. We were at the Quest conference and we were just learning a lot from other organizations, how they structure some of their leadership meetings. And I loved one of the presentations. It was all about, no one likes to sit in meetings, right? So what are we getting out of the meeting? Trying to keep your meeting load for the week. I think it was under 6 hours. And some roles, that's okay. Some roles you might need a little bit more, but how can we be really efficient? And so to me, the management team meeting is critical. It gets the entire management team together, collaborative, and we want to make sure it's worth all of our time sitting here too. So it's more of like, we're going to get together, kind of brainstorm. We've lost a few things, getting agendas on the agenda. Maybe like, how do we make it more interactive where there's that no share do afterwards? So if you miss it, if you go away and we do have takeaways, how do you remember what we talked about here? So like I said, we're just going to smoosh it up a little bit. But if you have any ideas of how to make it engaging, interactive, Bessie Myers, I just think in general, I feel like I'm just preaching to you. That doesn't feel very good. We've tried like Atrium A and B before. I liked it because we had smaller pods where you could really converse, but that's hard to see and hear. So just like I said, brainstorming how we can make this worth all of our time, because the information shared here is critical for all of us. And I think it's really important to come in person too. So sometimes online is the only options for some individuals, but my plea to you is if you are on site and able, please join us in person in Bessie Myers, because that's where that real connection between your peers happens too. So more to come on that one. There's no takeaway for that, just more of like, hey, we're brainstorming what this could look like. If you have thoughts, maybe you're a newer leader, maybe you've seen it done really well elsewhere, shoot me an email, come chat with me. Hey, kudos to IT. I was reading, and I find it. I was reading our Graham Live recently. All right. Yeah, it's right there. Did you guys know? This is exciting for me. It's the little things, you know? So how many times are you on team calls with other organizations, with vendors, with other individuals? I love being able to wear the Mary Greeley logo or our campus proudly behind you. So this is out for most of us. It may take up to 48 hours, correct? Is what I hear to update. So thanks IT for making that awesome. April town halls. So those are coming up soon. The attendance, I will say, is good for the people that come. So we have the same individuals coming time and time over again. It's engaging. If you hear otherwise, let us know. We've done a few like, hey, how's it going? People seem to really enjoy it. So this is my plea to get all of you into a town hall. You can attend virtually. We have a good number of people attending virtually. Certainly come here in person. And then most importantly, if you're hearing topics or themes from your employees and they're just wondering about the master facility plan, or they're wondering about our finances, or they're wondering about, hey, patient experience at XYZ, send those to us because we would love to be able to dedicate a town hall around some of that. I know I said the master facility plan, it's coming towards presenting to the board. So we're not quite ready to get it out in front of this group or our employees yet, but I promise as soon as we kind of finalize it, at least in a presentable form, we will get in front of this group. And then kudos to our Birthways staff. So we have baby-friendly surveyors here on site. How's it going?
They said, one of the gals said, our unit is one of the top prettiest units she's ever seen. I thought that was really nice.
Agree. The top prettiest units we've ever seen. And I guarantee you, we have the biggest rooms of any.
They say that a lot too.
Unit. Yeah. So thank you. Let us know what you need. And then finally, mission moment. So I would like to bring this to management team. I would encourage you to do it too. If you have just really special patient comments or things that have come your way throughout the month that you think we should all hear, please bring it here to share. I got one. If you came to the March town hall meetings or watched it online, I'm sorry, this is a duplicate. You're going to hear it again, but I think it's so fabulous on what we do and why we do it and why it's so important for the patient interaction. I want to read it again. So this one, I want to personally thank you for the excellent and compassionate care I received at Mary Greeley recently. I went to the emergency room at Mary Greeley early morning on Sunday with extreme chest and abdominal pain and was admitted to the hospital overnight for observation and testing. The tests all ruled out heart and other serious issues. 10 days later, while I was on vacation in Louisiana, I experienced an even more serious attack and spent some 7 hours in the emergency room in a New Orleans hospital. We cut our trip short and returned home, where our family doctor diagnosed the problem. I had surgery yesterday to remove it. This was back in March. The difference between Mary Greeley and the East Jefferson Hospital in New Orleans is striking. At both of my stays at Mary Greeley, the staff were so friendly and compassionate, right down to the person that wheeled me from my room to the operating room. Everyone greeted me with a smile, introduced themselves, and explained what they were doing. They went out of their way to make sure that myself and my wife felt comfortable. By contrast, the atmosphere in New Orleans Hospital was quite sterile, and I don't mean that in a good way. While the doctors and nurses seemed competent, there were no smiles, no expressions of concern. No one called my wife by name. I don't even think they knew my name. The person at the admitting desk refused to take my insurance information, which now means I'll likely get a bill and need to go through all the hassle of filing the claim with Medicare myself. In the triage hospital in New Orleans, a technician did my EKG, and the only word she spoke to me was sorry when she removed the patches and pulled my chest hair. The rest of my stay wasn't much better. Everyone seemed to be acting like they were just working for the paycheck. It's nice to know here in Ames we have a medical facility where folks understand the meaning of Iowa nice. This is what we do every day. And I know it might get just repetitive and we do AIDA validations every day and we just kind of harp on that over and over, but this is what matters. We live this every day. We come here, do our work, go home, go to sleep, come back, do our work, go. So to us, it is repetitive. Patience. See this, and I love it. He called out our AIDA values and our pride values in this letter without, I'm sure, even knowing it. So our patients do notice, and I think our patient experience scores also show the work that we're doing. So just thank you for what you do and making sure that we're all rowing in that same direction because it does make a difference. All right. Did I give you enough time to think of wins and recognitions? Do we have any new leaders here today that we should welcome or visitors?
I've got Josh Harry here. He's one of my PTs that he will take my place when I retire.
Yes. Look. And I know the leadership email that went out, it said just a brief bit about your history, but anything else you'd like to add? We usually have you sing or dance on your first time here.
Goodness, give me a heads up. No, yeah, I've been here for 6 years, ever since I graduated PT school. So this is the one job that I've had. I grew up in the Des Moines area and live in Ankeny currently. So kind of always been in central Iowa, but it's as we all know, it's a special hospital to work for. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to try and fill Pam's shoes in a couple of months.
Yeah, welcome, Josh. Anyone else? Visitor, new to the management team? Okay, let me open it up. Wins and recognitions that you'd like to share with the group.
We had 24 wonderful paramedics and nurses at the concert on Saturday night. That was a lot of fun, and people had a lot of fun. They did a great job keeping the medical issues there as best they can. We had, I think, 8 people came to our ER as all. And so, that's above and beyond for them. They're not staffed that day. It's not normal. We take a sign up. And that group plus 4 physicians from Unity Point controlled the environment there. It was great. Really, really well done.
Yes, thank you. Steve.
Back in November, we worked with a number of the outpatient clinics, and by we, I mean Jessica. And we simplified an appointment request form, which is available on the website. Since November of 25, we've had 146 appointment requests come through using this form. That compares with the previous 2 years when we had 223. So the use of it has increased, appears to be increased significantly, and people are appreciating the simplification of it. Thanks to the outpatient clinics that helped us out with that.
Thank you. Julie.
I have a shout out for IS. This is a huge win, but they helped us set up an external team site. So when DMV surveyors come through, all of the documents that we have to provide to them, which ends up being like anywhere from 3 to 5-inch binders worth of documents that we would normally print out, that can now get transferred over to an external team site. So it's a huge win. Andrea is going to be super excited. She doesn't have to print all that stuff now. So just super excited that they were able to help us get that set up.
If you don't all have tears in your eyes over that, you really.
Karen.
I don't have it. Is somebody from behavioral health here? Are they online?
We are online.
Tell everybody the stat you told me this morning about what the host team has done.
Yep. So the host team has housed 55% of all of the AIM student and families through their efforts for homelessness in the last year. Sorry.
Community school district, and right now it's in this community, but these are kids who are living in a condo or unhoused, and that stat is amazing. So HOST is the Homeless Outreach Support Team.
Thank you, team. And then innovation and excellence. I know some communication's gone out, but in case you haven't seen it, the award winners have been notified and celebrated. We can continue to celebrate them. So medical staff is Dr. McCoy. We celebrated him in the nominees last Friday. And then for leadership, it's Whitney Garwood. For nursing, Sarah Ortman. And then for service, it's Matthew Steffen. So if you see them, make sure to congratulate them, and we'll get to celebrate them even more in a month. All right, anything else before it's a long agenda?
Yeah, we had 12 people that took Balders 101 last week and this week and finished it. John Barton, Janelle Beal, Jill Bodie, Jessica Terry Holmes, Julie Gano, Natalie Lynch, Phil Maxner, Heather Meadows, Shannon Parrish, Caitlin Proctor, Lisa Shearmeister, and Sue Walsh.
Wow, good job. Let's say for the 5 of us that were at the Baldrige conference, it was a lot of learning, really good networking, and man, poor little pineapple. We do really, really good work, and it further solidified, like sometimes working in the system, you're like, ooh, our processes are a little wonky. No, like we have processes and we are very process driven. So thank you. All right, who's up first? Cybersecurity. All right.
Right. Well, hello, everyone. So this month we're going to do a little bit more, which is why there's a little bit more time on the agenda there. I'm going to talk about generative AI tools. I'm sorry if you're sick of that term, but we're going to talk about it. There's some important things with that, but we're specifically going to hone in on privacy, not just security, but privacy as well, and ePHI. So kind of a great segue, actually, Amber, sharing the that patient comment, because when we really talk about policies, it's just a quick reminder, it's kind of background, but when we talk about policies, these are 3 reasons that we want policies, that we have policies. Their goal really should be to reduce risk when we're talking about security and privacy breaches, and really to support and allow our mission and vision. So we want to have continue excellent patient-centered care. We want to be the best. And then really, bottom line, kind of ensuring our values are lived out. So we're living out safety, we're living out quality and those pride values. So when we talk about those, what Roger and I are up here today for, these are just 2 examples of policies, why we have these policies. So we have a generative AI policy. We have our patient confidentiality policy, among many, many others, as you're all aware. But those are so important because they do gear towards all those statements up there. We want to live out our values. We want to support and allow our mission and vision. And then, of course, reduce risk in operating. So Why am I talking about that with generative AI tools? So I've talked about them before. I've talked about it mostly from the security risks, but we really wanted to expand today on why we talk about them different than other applications or tools. So it's kind of a map up there, but these are really stacking reasons why risk increases with these tools. So it has the same risks as every other application. Things can be broken, it can be misconfigured, bad people can do bad things with it. And settings can just not be turned on. So it has all those and more. There's some new ones I've talked about before. And then you tack on top of that with privacy, that generative AI tools, they're not built with privacy first. Really, I would say they're not built with privacy at all. Because if you think about it, the large language models, which is what lies behind those tools, they feed on data. They have to have vast amounts of data in order to function. That's what makes them powerful, actually. And so if it's personal data, more the better, depending on what your end is. So not really built for privacy at all. So that's a challenge with them. Then you throw in that they're really easily accessible, right? And free oftentimes. A lot of companies, it goes into the persistent marketing item there, but a lot of companies, they're still trying to figure out how they can monetize, I should say, monopolize. It's two different words I mixed there, yeah. Monetize, monopolize, and monetize, I suppose. These tools and these large language models. They're still figuring that out. We're in our infancy with these things, even though they're moving so quickly. So you get that persistent marketing. So not only is it free and easily accessible, it's really marketed very heavily towards consumers. And then lastly, it's just honestly quite useful. There's a lot of output that we really do like. A lot of output's really good. Some of it is great even in the early stages of tools. So we talk about that because there are higher likelihoods of different things with that. So when we're talking organizationally, one would be shadow usage. So I talked about that, I think recently. We've talked about shadow IT and shadow AI. Really just increases our risk of every other area. It's undocumented, it's unverified. We don't know whether it's safe. We can't protect what we don't know about. So that likelihood of those occurrences go up. HIPAA violations, that's real. There are fines, there's reputation damage to that. We're in early stages of that, but there are cases where this is starting to happen with generative AI tools in healthcare. There's just ethical violations. The likelihood of those go up. Privacy, our values, how we care for people and respect their data, those violations can increase in risk. And then there's other risks too. So more security focus. We can have data leaks. We can lose data. We have those cyber threats. I've talked at length about those before in other platforms. So really the question is, how can we reduce that risk and still use these tools? They're powerful. How can we leverage them? I like to think about it in terms of AI safety guardrails. So security is to provide guardrails to enable us to use these tools. So the question is, how are we going to do that? And how can we do that? Surprise, might not be surprised. We have a policy that helps us understand how to do that. So what does that involve? So how are we to respond when we think about these things? So first thing to do is we really want to make only approved generative AI tools accessible to our staff. What this means right now, what's currently approved is Microsoft Copilot. That is the only approved generative AI tool in our environment. We have a default stance of not entering any PHI into that, ePHI, Electronic Protected Health Information. And we really should be accessing with a business account with our MGMC emails or with a paid account through Mary Greeley. So that is the currently approved one. We want people to use that for different workflows. We want people to leverage that in a safe way and increase their efficiency. The second would be to block all unapproved generative AI tools. So we do have a timeline for this to align with our policy and multiple policies actually. And this Wednesday, so that's tomorrow, through the end of this week, we're going to email top users, frequent users of generative AI tools that are not Copilot. We're going to give a courtesy. We want to contact them and say, hey, you're not in trouble. This is coming. We're going to be blocking these tools. We want to give you a heads up. And we also want to allow for people to think through, if you have a legitimate use case for a tool that's not Microsoft Copilot, we want to examine that. We want you to submit that, but it needs to go through a review process, approval process, so that we can maintain our secure posture here. And so that is coming out. So if you get questions on that, that would be why. But always feel free to respond back. That's going to come from the service desk, I believe. But you can reach out to the InfoSec team. You can reach out to anyone in IS, and we can get some answers for you. And then Monday, so this coming Monday, April 20th, all unapproved generative AI tools will be blocked across Mary Greeley. So that's important because if someone's using one and maybe they're using it in a way they don't know that Microsoft Copilot can do the same thing, but they're using it for a legitimate purpose, we don't want to just cut off people's access to that immediately. We want them to keep their workflow going. We want them to leverage tools that help them. So so something to be aware of there. And then lastly, the third one would be to, moving forward after this, is to monitor and notify on unapproved access attempts. So again, this isn't punitive. It's actually to train our staff to say, hey, we noticed that you are trying to access, I don't know, Grok or something. That's unapproved. Here's why. If you want to fill out, if you think you have a legitimate use case for it, go to Ivanti. Here's some steps to do that. Fill out a ticket and we can kickstart that process. We can review that. So it's to monitor and notify going forward. Anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just a little. So one thing, I want to make sure that everyone understands that we are not in any way against the use of AI or generative AI tools. We're very much in favor of leveraging AI to streamline our workflows and to allow us to work smarter, not harder. So we are intentionally trying to do that inside of lots of different applications. I can think of the Solventum application. I can think of, we're looking at the AI tools inside of Epic and are very close to, if not, have already deployed some of those. So in addition to that, obviously, is Microsoft Copilot. But it's really important to us that we do that in a means that we are vetting them from a security perspective and from a privacy perspective prior to utilizing them. The other thing that I wanted to share in relation to Microsoft Copilot, a lot of people got started early on with ChatGPT, and then people got started on Grok and Claude, and so a lot of this usage is probably more preference because that's what maybe you got started on. And people might say, well, I like this one better because it produces these different results. They are very similar to each other now in current state. And in fact, Microsoft has a way that you can run it in GPT mode. It also has a way that you can run it in Claude mode. So if you feel like, well, I really like this other one better, let's have that conversation and maybe we can help show you how to leverage some of that same back-end engine inside of Copilot. And in the end, again, the reason why we have standardized on Copilot is because we have more security controls around that platform and we have zero controls around the other ones. So, and that our data, which is the currency, it is the value in all of this, and our patients' data are really important to us, and we want to make sure that we do all that we can to protect those.
Yeah, any questions on that? I will say too, this comes up a lot, just a tidbit. There's a saying that innovation always outpaces security, which I hope is not true for much longer, but that's also why I have a career, I think, a lot of times. But and so generative AI is just part of that process. It's moved so quick, and security, we're always trying to get ahead of the curve, but that's part of exactly what Roger said, stewarding our data and our patients. So
yeah. So I guess in the no share do format, please know this information about generative AI. Share it with your teams, huddle it, and then please inform them of these changes. And were you going to send some? Yeah,
that'll be out. And we're not going to send that. It's not going to be like on the Graham Live. It's to specific users. So we have identified those through our different tools. We can give some insight into Shadow AI, which is ironic. But we do have that. And so we're going to contact them directly. They'll be receiving that directly via email. Yeah. All right. No hands. Thank you. If you have questions, reach out to us. We'd love to talk more about it. So thank you.
And then we do not have it on the agenda, but I'm going to give a very short update on Project Oracle. So This week, we kicked off what is called the conference room pilots. So you might remember some of the old timelines that we've shared for several months now. And we talked about, we did requirements gathering, and then we did proof of concept. And all of that was just on paper. Think of it as we did all this work on paper. Then we started what they called the conference room pilot builds. And we actually started putting data into the Oracle platform. And so this week, we kicked off the conference room pilots, which is the first of 3 different iterations of testing and validation. So this first one, they set the bar very low. It's like 60% accuracy of our workflows going through. I said, well, that sounds like a D-. Is that what we're really shooting for? And they shared with us that, well, you guys, of course, are setting the bar high. You are flying through this closer to 95 and 100% on most of these data loads and workflows. So true Mary Greeley fashion. But it's the first iteration of our hands inside the platform and testing those workflows. After this session, we'll start to work more on some of the integrations, so the integrations between different systems. And once most of that is built and wired together, then we'll have another series of testing that they call systems integrated testing. And lastly, this fall, we will have truly user acceptance testing, where we've completed all the build and we actually do that entire testing process, and they simply look over our shoulders. So we're really excited to be where we are today. The latest update from Alithya, our partner, on the status of our project overall is we are green across the board. Again, phenomenal work by our stakeholder group and by our leads that are leading this effort, both on the Mary Greeley side and on the Alithya side. We're in really, really great shape. So just wanted to share that.
What's next on the agenda?
Emergency management.
I'm not going to talk about
Project portfolio. No. So I think there's a PowerPoint. Tim, do you have that? If not, we'll just start talking. Okay. So just a quick reference. In the month of March, the month of April, we talked about some inclement weather. Timely enough, we had some tornadoes in northwest Iowa yesterday. We're into some weather today, so that worked out really, really well for some preparedness. And then in the month of May, we'll do some bomb threats. So a no share do will soon come out about that. We'll also be having the coffee and emergency preparedness brown bag sessions, so be looking out for those. And then how many of us knew that number 8 on our HVA was IT systems outage? Thank you, Roger. All right. And so that was number 8. And luckily, just last week, we had an incident where we got to test some of that. So how many of you also were aware that we don't have a downtime procedure for when the main intercom of the house goes out? Matt does, because he was there, and so does Gary. We did get to be able to test our HICS system last week in real time. And during that test, we found that there wasn't a really good identification mechanism for when our house speaker system goes out. And then when we looked to try to find a downtime procedure for that, we didn't find that either. And so just like a good team, we got together and we took a real world situation and turned it into something positive. And we were able to mitigate the issue within about 45 minutes of the issue happening, or at least that we knew about it. And we turned that into some policies, procedures, and even some downstream communication plans that will help us fix those problems. And when Cody comes back up here next month, he'll also explain some of those things and the tables that he has devised using WENS and using a bunch of the other tools we have to help with communication in the event our main system goes down. And so, do you have anything else you want to add to that, Roger? Any other opinions?
the nature of the incident was something that we didn't know about. Historically, we have monitoring devices and we have UPSs that are on these systems. And back in the day, they were managed by two different groups. Sometimes it would be IT and sometimes it would be facilities. In this situation, neither group was the owner, is what we found. And so we found an opportunity to make sure that we have a monitoring system. We leverage IT support and services to make sure it has continuous monitoring on it. And we're going to be better in the future. Do you have any other words about that, Roger?
No, you captured it really pretty well.
So just be thinking about something like that. Something like the PA system didn't necessarily catch our radar. If you've got things in your departments that might be IT related or on a system that is critical for the communication in your departments, and you're unsure exactly who is monitoring or measuring it, I ask you to reach out to Roger and his team, and they'll help you take a look at it and make sure that you're doing a risk assessment to make sure it's on all of our systems so it has continuous monitoring and we can catch these problems before they happen. Anybody have any questions about that? I did the best I could to be Cody today. Yes, Amber.
You use two acronyms that people may not know. So HVA and HICS. Could you explain?
HVA. So that's our hazard vulnerability assessment. And so in the month of December, I think we looked at a full year and we did an assessment of all the major risks that could happen that the hospital may be responsible for responding to. And we took our top 13. And that's what we build into our monthly preparedness plans. And it's not an accident that we picked inclement weather in the month of April. And it's not an accident that we picked active shooter in a different month. Those are all based on a risk assessment score. So the things that were most vulnerable or highest risk situations, we're going to drill every month in the year of 2026. And then we'll redo that next year. A lot of the things may continue on to the following year, but there might be other risks that pop up. And so the second one you said was HICS. And so that's our hospital incident command system. I want to applaud Matt, especially in his house supervisors group. They wasted no time to activate HICS, which means we've got a big problem in the hospital. In this case, it was mass communication to everybody. If you think about things like a fire code, a missing patient, a combative patient, in the situation where we didn't have a PA system, none of those things worked. And that's very, very scary. But Matt's team and his house supervisor didn't hesitate. They called a HICS, a hospital incident command structure immediately. The team formed together in the RIE room. I just happened to be there when they showed up. They had a command of everything that was going on. They've already chatted with IT. They had good situational awareness and started thinking about how they were going to communicate to friends, family, and personnel down the road. It was interesting because sometimes we have people focusing on fixing the system. Meanwhile, Peggy's focusing on what happens if one of my staff on the floor isn't safe. And so she's trying to think of ways to communicate with teams. Because of all of those things, we're able to come up with a document for primary and backup systems for communication in the event something goes down. But even better than that, Roger's team stepped up and said, we're going to try not to let the system go down. And so hospital incident command was started. We had the people in place to help make decisions. We were ready to run if we had to. We didn't need to do that. And so, yeah, that's the structure that we drilled on, 2 weeks ago? We just had a massive drill. And it turned out that we were very, very ready for this event. Yes?
During our stroke survey that we had, the surveyor that was here did ask every department that she hit on about downtime procedures. I do anticipate that surveyors going forward are going to hit on this a lot, just with the amount of downtime different hospitals have experienced due to different incidences that have occurred. So this is going to be a hot topic, I feel, going forward. So that is something Andrea and I are going to look at when we do our preps with the different departments on looking at the different downtime procedures and what you guys have in place for your departments.
If you didn't hear that online, we're possibly going to be challenged with downtime procedure questions from anybody that comes into the building. I think we welcome those questions. Cody has done a good job about keeping people informed. Again, we added this to our monthly emergency preparedness, and I think we're ready. Any other questions? Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm back with another project portfolio update, just sharing some more information about kind of where we're at in the process right now and some reminders for you all. Quick agenda. So over the next 10 minutes, I want to cover the impact of the project portfolio management, which we've touched on multiple times here already, but I'll give you real examples of why that matters. Then we will dive into the project portfolio request intake and validation process, as well as discovery analysis and completing a business case. And then lastly, I will cover some next steps. So I want to start by reiterating the importance of project portfolio management. The slide shows the difference between operating with portfolio management versus without it. When we don't manage work as a true portfolio, everything tends to become top priority. You guys know that, which becomes highly problematic. Because in fiscal year 27 alone, we already have 86 capital requests totaling nearly $23 million. So this is not including our non-capital requests or the other requests that'll come in throughout the year. This is without portfolio management, this leads to congestion and overextends our resources. So portfolio management shifts us from thinking everything is urgent to actually doing the right work at the right time. Keep in mind that just because we received these fiscal year 27 capital requests does not automatically mean that they're approved or that they'll be happening. These requests are going through the governance process just like any other request would. So we still want to pursue those high priority projects, but we will deliberately sequence these across our coming quarters and future fiscal years, balancing our priority levels and aligning them with available capacity. So again, you can see left side is not a place that we want to be. Right side is where we would like to go. So the first step in our process, as you all know, I've talked about this multiple times here, is intake and validation. The purpose here of this step is very intentional. We want to make sure that we're solving a real problem before we invest a ton of time, money, or organization's resources. Remember at this stage that we're not talking about solutions yet. We're validating the issue itself, and this is where we ask a few really important questions. Is there a clear business problem or an opportunity? Who across the organization is impacted? What happens if we do nothing? And why is this important right now? So these questions help us to get a shared understanding of the issue and ensure we're not reacting to isolated pain points or jumping straight to a preferred solution. The key outcome of intake and validation is ensuring that the issue is real and meaningful and that it's worth exploring further. So it's important to understand that a decision to move forward from this stage is not approval of your solution. It's simply permission to enter a discovery analysis. And if your request moves into discovery based on the governance committee's review of your intake form, they will determine the appropriate business case level, either light, medium, or heavy, based on the cost, risk, and org impact associated with that request. And once that level is set, I will be communicating that decision to the submitter of the request on behalf of the governance committee. And I will be sharing that template with you as well. So I'll be telling you what level that you are assigned, and I will actually share that template with you so that you can just open it and fill it out. So after my communication goes out, the submitter or the primary sponsor should be focusing on understanding the best fit solution for our organization right now, and not just what could happen or work in theory. The purpose of discovery is for you to explore options and impacts in the context of our current strategy, capacity, and priorities. We're still not approving anything at this point. You're building understanding so that you and the governance committee can make better decisions. During discovery, several key things are happening. So first, you're deliberately looking at multiple solution options that might include process or workflow changes, technology solutions, capital or facilities-based options, or a combination of any of these things. You then will assess each option for org impact, risk, and feasibility, and include how realistic the option is given our current environment and readiness for change. So discovery is also when we intentionally engage our impacted partners. This includes people like facilities, IT, clinical and ancillary services, environmental services, infection prevention, supply chain, finance, and others as needed. So some of this work should be done prior to you even submitting that request, but this is another stop point in the process that was put there intentionally to ensure that all those stakeholders are getting involved before we do any work or make any payments. These teams get involved to provide their expertise, identify any constraints that you may not be aware of, and help us understand downstream impacts early on. So an important outcome of Discovery is gathering the information that we need to complete the business case. Discovery informs the business case, but it is not replacing it. So during this phase, you should be simultaneously filling out the appropriate business case template that I will be sharing with you, so that the governance committee can use that information for scoring and prioritization. So Discovery is where the actual analytical work is happening, while the business case is simply the document that we use for a consistent and structured format. This approach allows us to stay efficient while still applying the right level of rigor and due diligence. Once Discovery is complete and the business case is finalized, the completed Word document or a PDF copy of that document should be attached to your original submission within the project portfolio. At that point, you can leave a comment tagging me or notifying me via email or Teams so that I know that it's in there and ready for review. From there, I will verify the completion of that document, and I'll prepare a brief summary along with a preliminary objective baseline score to support the committee's discussion. That baseline score is going to be generated using AI, Copilot specifically, strictly as a non-biased standardized input that helps organize information consistently and highlights relative differences between the submissions. It's important to note that this AI is not making decisions and it's not prioritizing our work independently. The decisions still lie with our governance committee and the admin team. So just keep that in mind with the AI. It's just helping us do a little bit of prep work. So all three of these business case templates are intentionally similar, but each level builds on the one before it. The light business case is used for smaller, lower risk requests and focuses on the core problem, proposed solution, and expected value of your request. The medium template adds more detail around impacts, risks, resources, feasibility, and a focus on multiple solution options. And the heavy business case is reserved for those complex, high-impact initiatives and includes deeper analysis of multiple solutions, including financial details, dependencies, and org readiness. And all of these templates can be found on the Project Portfolio SharePoint site. On the right-hand side of the homepage, you'll see this list. It looks just like that. This is a screenshot from that SharePoint page. So these are always available to all of you, and we hope that you are using these so that we can be consistent in our templates. So for next steps, I first am going to ask, this is a new request, and I'll talk about it a little bit more on my last slide. I'm asking that all of our directors here rank their requests by priority using the director's priority rank view in the project portfolio site. Second, please keep the status of all of your projects up to date. Accurate status helps us make informed decisions and reduces the follow-up and rework that our teams need to do. For projects that are scheduled or active, please be sure to add your estimated start and end dates. This is critical for visibility, capacity planning, and sequencing across our portfolio. And then lastly, the governance committee will continue to meet bi-weekly. We met for the first time last week. We'll meet again on Monday. And we're working really hard to get all of your requests through the governance process. So in regard to the priority ranking that I mentioned, all directors with more than one request in the project portfolio should go to the director's priority ranking view in the project portfolio list. In this view, you will rank all non-active requests within your area. You'll assign a unique priority number to each of these requests, with number 1 indicating your highest priority, and the numbering will continue sequentially based on how many requests that you have in this list. So like I said, each request should have a unique number. We want to avoid having multiple number 1s, for example, so that we can clearly understand your relative priorities. So this is intentionally a director level responsibility, not manager, senior director, VP. We really want this at the director level because we're asking for prioritization at the level where trade-offs across departments or service lines could be made. So we expect these rankings to change over time, and that's totally fine. I've gotten a lot of questions about this from the people that I've met with on this. But as these conditions, the regulations, risks change, it's actually your responsibility as a director to go back in and update these rankings so that they remain current. And with that said, it's important to note that just because something is your top priority does not guarantee that the work will move forward strictly in numeric order. We may move down your list or work out of order based on available resources, timing, or required expertise at any given moment. So that's a lot of information. I'm asking that you please reach out to me with the questions that you have, or feel free to schedule time on my calendar and I'll walk you through all this. Questions now. Yes, Whitney Garwood. I'm going to put Whitney Garwood on my question slide.
There was that beautiful,
Innovation.
Yes, it is.
it's so many questions. No, that beautiful flow sheet that you had. At what point is it submitted into the project portfolio? Is that where it starts? And then it follows through there, or
Yes, yeah.
intake?
So your submission will come in, I'll see it, it'll go to the governance committee, and then we'll determine if it goes into discovery or not. From there, I'll be communicating that to you, whether it moves forward, if it's denied or deferred. If it is moving forward, I'll tell you what level of discovery you've been assigned as well. So either light, medium, or heavy, and I'll attach that business case template. And go ahead.
Is there a possibility to have that as a status, like discovery?
It is a status.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great question. Lots of statuses in there. So anybody else?
Ranking by fiscal year or just total?
Total. So
Okay.
anything within the director view, I would like to see ranked. Now, if you have something for fiscal year 2030, that's probably going to be bottom of your list right now, and that's totally fine. But as we get closer and some of these other projects get completed and they fall off your list, that will come closer to the top. And that's why it's important to just stay in there and keep it up to date. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, please do feel free to schedule time with me if you have questions about the ranking or anything else with the project portfolio. Thank you.
This is a little bit of a why behind the what conversation. How many of you have heard of the Leapfrog Hospital Survey? There's a safety grade. We don't love the way our grade is. We're going to talk not so much about the survey, but about the why. So I'm not going to talk about it. Someone smarter than me is going to talk about it. Joelle is going to talk about it. So
I don't know about smarter, but I'm chattier, and that's why I have an alarm set for 15 minutes. So we don't like to talk about the past when we talk about where we're headed, because we're strategic planning people. But when we talk about our CMS publicly reported measures, all of those are 1 to 2 years in the rears. And so that's really kind of the why behind the what. That why would we even consider filling out a Leapfrog survey? Because I know that you've probably not heard a lot of favorable things about the survey internally. So our publicly reported measures, all of those CMS reportable safety events, that really is what's available to the public. So that's our patients and their families, employers, that's payers. I know that Gary's team has reached out about both our safety measures and our patient experience measures when they're negotiating with payers to see if we can either continue contracts or get better rates. So those results that are out there become the proxy for, are we a safe organization? Do we provide good care? And that's why we talk about it so much and why it's it's so important to us. So it can influence all of the things below, including the board perception of our care, because they're in the community embedded. And so people are going to come to them when they say, why are we a Leapfrog D? Why do the results that are out on the website not reflect what you're telling us? And so it's really important that we focus on where we're headed and the good results that we're getting right now, but we do still have to pay the piper for the results that are out there right now. And so that's why I'm up here today. So when we did our strategic planning, just as a review, a part of a strategic planning is looking at our consumer and brand awareness. So that's not only our current patients, but people that live in our market. So this is a little bit dated from a survey perspective, but it was really consistent every time we did it. So why did people choose Mary Greeley? And you can see the A represents Mary Greeley, and it's really heavily into convenience, but moving towards the quality. So people are choosing us because we're closest, because we're available to them. We want them to think of us because we're high quality. Why do people leave this area to seek healthcare 30 miles down the road? When we asked this question, or when our survey company asked this question, it was because their perception was that the care was better. And that could be because they offer services that we don't. And it could be because they were influenced by a provider or family or friends. But we want them to think of us as the highest quality and not to want to leave because their perception is that the care is better elsewhere. We had a facilitator, Brian Laster, come in and do lots of interviews with internal and external stakeholders. When we interviewed internal stakeholders, including some members of our Patient Family Advisory Council, quality was top of mind. And so this is a word cloud that he made. Quality and culture were huge. As we moved further out to external stakeholders and community members, community became bigger and quality was still there, but it was much, much smaller. And so that was something that became a big topic of discussion throughout strategic planning. Are we telling our story, and do people perceive our quality the way that they should? So after we heard that, and as part of our environmental scan, we looked at how is the care that we're providing. So how did we compare to other hospitals within our state? We were worse than 12, equal to 2, and better than 5 in the reportable measures. Then we looked at our NDNQI, or our comparisons with the nurse sensitive indicators with magnet hospitals, and there were a lot of things that we weren't pleased with. And this is all stuff you've seen before, right? None of this is new. And then we looked at, from a financial perspective, were we maximizing the dollars that we were getting paid through the value-based purchasing program? And we weren't satisfied with where we were going in terms of safety. And so we did a whole lot of things, and I hope that this works because it took me a really long time to order them. We doubled down on getting to 0 events of harm. We zoomed in from a nursing strategic plan perspective on the 2 areas that were plaguing us the most. We performed a self-assessment of not only our results or the outcomes, but the processes and systems we had in place to support safety, as well as our patient safety culture survey through Press Ganey. And that resulted in a lot of internal action planning at the organizational level, as well as all of the work that you're doing within your departments. And so part of that was standardizing our huddles, refreshing accountability huddle. Kevin Krausman's huddle board went from this to this, and we're still really happy about that. And then we've done a lot of work with Just Culture. And so when I do the Big Dot Goal update at the end related to safety, we'll talk about where we're at with that work as well. So all of that leads up to, why would we consider doing the Leapfrog Hospital Survey right now? Historically, we've been really selective about what external ratings we participate in that aren't the nationally recognized things, that don't seem like they have an ulterior motive. And we were really thoughtful about whether or not we were going to do that. And then at the same time, we think about the perception of our community members, how competitive the environment is right now, and we don't want to endorse having all of these things be a little bit coercive in terms of forcing our participation, but we also want to make sure that the story that's being told is something that is within our control and not that we're letting somebody else tell that story about Mary Greeley. So just quickly, what is the Leapfrog Hospital Survey? There's two components. There's a survey and a grade. The survey is looking at any number of things that we already measure. So it's looking at maternal care, surgical outcomes. It's looking at barcode scanning and computerized ordering of meds and treatments. It's looking at a lot of processes, and then it also looks at our safety outcomes. And then it publishes, the Leapfrog group publishes how well we're doing compared to other organizations that participate in the survey. Otherwise, it just shows that we don't participate. And then based on some internal measures that they have decided upon, they assign grades to hospitals. And so when people go out to the Leapfrog website, what they did see until about a month ago was a grade assigned to every hospital, and then this little dashboard that showed whether we were better, worse, or the same than other organizations. If you go out to the hospital safety grade website right now, all of the grades are scrubbed because we aren't the only organization that didn't participate that was unhappy with the publicity that that they were getting. And so there is a little bit of unknown about what those safety grades are going to look like moving forward. But again, we want to make sure that we're being proactive with that story. And Karen, did I miss anything? Okay. So this is something I'm not going to talk through in detail, but very similar to the other things that we do, like the Baldrige framework. The Leapfrog scores are really calculated, some on what they call structural measures that I would say are process measures or processes, and then also outcomes. So process and results, just like a lot of the work that we do related to Baldrige. So if you just take a quick look up there, it's not stuff that we don't want to perform well in and not stuff that we're not paying attention to today. We just haven't gone through the work to fill out the survey yet. This is just kind of summarizing what data sources we would need. It would be very heavily pulling data from our EHR, our claims data, as well as some of the stuff that we already submit to NHSN and our other publicly reported sites. And then Press Ganey is also kind of dialed into the Leapfrog surveys just because there are some regulatory changes coming and in process related to the STARS program, and they do a lot with predictive STARS. And so this is one of the slides that I think is really helpful to see the breakdown of all of the different safety grades. There aren't a ton of A's, and I don't think there's any that are A's that don't participate in the survey. So we haven't made a decision organizationally about if we will or will not participate, but if the decision is made that we are going to participate in the survey, it's going to be a pretty steep timeline. And so that's why the awareness, because either Karen or myself will be reaching out to owners of the different segments to just get more information so that we can submit. And the submission deadline is June 30 if we do decide to submit. That was like the fastest I've ever talked. And I have 4 minutes if you have any questions. Or you can ask them to Karen.
So you might wonder, what do I need to do now? And like Joelle said, we haven't decided if we are going to actually push the button and submit to Leapfrog, but we have decided to look at our data. And the Leapfrog gives you this survey booklet where you can start collecting your data, jotting down your results, and what you would essentially enter into their website so we can kind of see where our gaps are. We're going to do that, and we're going to ask for some help from each of you. You may have data that we may need. So we'll be scheduling some time with you. Again, We aren't going to ask you for reams of information. You probably already have a lot of this. We all do barcode scanning. And I mean, we in the clinical areas. So we have access to some of that data, but we're going to want to make sure that we validate it with you. So those are the things that we're going to be talking with you about before we actually put that data into a survey platform. We're going to want to validate it first. So that would be the next step and what we'll be looking for from you. So questions? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I feel like there were so many of you when I was sitting up there, but it's much less intimidating down here. Hi, my name's Hannah Fellmeyer. I work in human resources as the recruitment and outreach coordinator. I work directly under Tammy Stegman. I feel a little bit like Ron felt 2 weeks ago at First Friday when he was like, you want me to talk about heparin? Today, I'm like, you want me to talk about the CNA grant? But our intern actually helped put this presentation together and she couldn't be here. She's at class today. So here we are. Raise of hands, who has heard about the CNA grant? Yeah, okay, great. A good number of us. So what is the CNA grant? So Mary Greeley was awarded a grant from the Iowa Workforce Development, and in conjunction with the grant money and the support of the foundation, we are able to provide free CNA certification for PCTs, our PCTs. So that could be basic or advanced CNA certification, and it's all free to them. So they work here as an employee, and then they can get their CNA certification in conjunction with their employment here. So that covers all tuition, books, and supplies for those students. So great opportunity for PCTs who are looking to further their education. Just a note there on the bottom, the classroom time that they're actually at class is unpaid, but we do cover that full class. And like I mentioned, tuition, books, supplies, scrubs, whatever they may need. So who does this apply to? I mentioned this applies to any of our new or current PCTs. So anyone that has maybe their basic and wants to get their advanced, that would apply to them. Or anyone else who's an employee here at Mary Greeley that wants to become a PCT and get their certification. So what that would look like, if they're currently an employee here, not in a PCT role, they would need to move into a PCT role for them to be able to then utilize this grant. So for you as leaders, and I'll get to this on another slide, if you have interested employees who are not currently in PCT roles, part of your job is helping promote and educate this and then encouraging them to apply for a PCT role. So some of the information for interested employees, they can do the CNA class through either DMAC or NIAC. Those were just two of the closest colleges that provided the CNA classes. And we have the grant available now through September of this year. So fairly quick turnaround. If you do have interested PCTs, we want to get them enrolled in classes here in the next couple months. Why? So why should you encourage your employees to do this, or why should employees want to do this? For employees, it's obviously free to them. So we will cover all costs. So that would be a great opportunity. And then they can continue to climb that career ladder, that career pathway. So they'd get a bump in their pay, just further their education. But as a leader, it's a great way to build a stronger pipeline. So once they get their CNA certification here, hopefully they'll stick around. Maybe they'll go on to school to get their RN or BSN, and hopefully stay here with the organization. Also helps improve retention and internal mobility. So if they're not loving maybe where they are, looking for new opportunities, hopefully they'll still stay at the organization and just move to another department because they have that CNA certification. So like I mentioned, what are some action points for you as leaders? So check in, if you're a clinical leader, check in with your current PCTs. Some maybe don't have their basic or advanced. Some maybe have their basic but don't have their advanced and would be interested in getting their advanced certification. So check in with them and encourage them to reach out to HR if they are interested in this. For the ones that are interested and do decide to go through the certification program, please help be flexible with their schedule and their class so that they can get that certification while remaining an employee here. And then, like I mentioned, if you have an employee who's not currently a PCT but is really, really interested in this, please help them. Maybe connect with someone who is a PCT to ask them about what that role looks like, or help them look on our job board for open PCT positions. Because like I mentioned, they do have to be employed as a PCT for this grant to apply. So if they're currently here, maybe they're working in dietary, they would need to apply and be hired as a PCT, and then they can sign up for this certification class. There are flyers. They look like this. Hopefully most of your departments now have them either in the staff restroom or somewhere in your break room. If you don't, we have copies in HR. I'd be happy to get you some. And they have some great information on here. They also have this same QR code, which will take you directly to a web page on our website that has all of this same information. So even if you're on our website, you should be able to find it too, and you can direct interested employees that way as well. You can also just send them to HR. I'd be happy to answer their questions. Steph, Tammy, most of us are pretty well versed in the CNA grant by now, so we can help answer their questions. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, Scott.
So do they have to complete the program and their certification by September 30th, or is that the enrollment?
That's a good question, Steph.
So the grant will end, our last date of information submitted will be September 30th.
So do they have to be in their class and class completed by September 30th? Or just enrolled by then?
They need to be finished.
Finished. Okay, finished. So a CNA class is usually like 4 to 12 weeks. So theoretically, like if you back it up, July probably would be like last month for them to enroll. Good question.
You said on one of the slides, no PRN. Is there a certain FTE that they do need to be in order to qualify?
That's stuff.
Anything above PRN?
Yep. Anything above PRN.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions? You guys are easy peasy. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Big Deck Goal Review. Not report, review. We do this version at the senior team every month. We call it the Senior Leader Strategic Plan Review. And we have gotten into a cadence of really just very methodically going through our Big Dot goals, using our data, where are we at, and do we need to pivot on our 90-day action plan? So I've asked the team, and we've asked that this be on our agenda each month, because I think it's really important for leaders. You see the Big Dot goal results, but you should see how we report this out so that you can take it back to your department, so you have that knowledge of how we're performing with our Big Dot goals. So I'm going to ask Joelle to start us out with our patient harm.
Just like to start by saying Gary did not follow suit with the uniform, but the rest of us are wearing green.
My goal's the green goal.
Right? We did this for you. I did something wrong. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go through things like I do for the senior leadership team. So we start with safety. Our March 31st goal was to be at fewer than 10 serious safety events fiscal year to date. We met that goal. So I'm just going to flip over to the dashboard of indicators. We ended up with 7 serious safety events fiscal year to date by the end of March 31st. 1 fall with major injury, 4 CODIs, and 2 SSIs. I believe that there were 2 CODIs and 1 SSI in the month of March, and we did have some good learnings with the CODIs that we took back to improve our maintenance cares. So that was a good learning. When we discuss the shadow metrics, does anybody remember what the shadow metrics are for patient safety? We talk a lot about total number of serious safety events, but does anybody remember what our shadow metrics are? That's what we thought. So they're MRSA and C. diff, and the reason we had those on there was because that was part of the value-based purchasing performance that we were not maximizing our return on, and we also don't want people to get infections while they're here in the hospital. So we've added that to the serious or the hospital-acquired infections, including SSIs. So you can see it at the bottom, our 3-year trend as well as our current fiscal year performance. I would imagine that if we continue, we have stable performance, but it's still not where we want to be. Those may walk on to our total number of serious safety events goal, but that's something that we'll continue to discuss. We're getting closer to fiscal year 27, something that will probably be looking different in terms of our annual goals. Next year, it will be higher than what was originally projected because falls with moderate injury are going to be reportable events. And so we're going to have to redo the baseline and then put a new goal out there to account for that. So if you notice that it's higher when we come back to the management team next month in preparation of the new operating goals, that's part of that discussion. So we'll continue to talk about those things, but as regulatory changes happen, we will adjust. So just going back to the action plan, things that we wanted to make sure that we accomplished by March 31st, a lot of talk about safety added to job descriptions. That was not just from our NAPS or National Action Plan survey through IHI, but it's also linked to the patient safety structural measure, making sure that safety is part of a core value of our organization, which we have done, and making sure that we're accounting for safety and job description. So you've probably seen quality and safety as part of the evaluations and popping into your job descriptions. That was intentional as part of our organizational annual action plan. And then work continues related to Just Culture. We have an event the week after next week to develop the Mary Greeley algorithm that then we'll educate the organization on. But we have adjusted the policy to account for human error and at-risk behavior and reckless behavior after the management team presentation in January, and that's also aligned with the patient safety structural measure. Questions about safety before I go into patient experience? So we are meeting that goal. And then for patient experience by March 31st, we wanted the CAPS or regulatory areas to be at the 74th percentile. And then we wanted the non-regulatory or non-CAPS areas to be at the 67th percentile. So going back to the dashboard of indicators, our regulatory areas are meeting, they're exceeding the quarter goal and meeting the year-end goal of the 75th percentile roll-up. And then the non-CAPS areas are just below the quarter goal and just below the annual goal, the 66th percentile. So I do think that we have some positive momentum in both of those areas and are still very much able to meet those goals by the end of the fiscal year.
And hey, Joe, I'll stop there. Give it up for our friends in the emergency department. They have been doing a ton of work and they have moved from the red, longstanding red, to they are now in the yellow. So
absolutely.
Kudos to the safety and team in the emergency.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing great work.
Yep.
And I want to just call out that they have made some significant progress.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really the only thing I wanted to add, because when we're talking about the organizational action plan, it's really for patient experience, focusing on the areas that need the most support, and not because of any role personnel component, but just because there are challenges in the service lines and challenges to work through. And we never want it to feel punitive, but we can't win as an organization if each department that contributes to the goal isn't winning. So when we talk about the really positive things that are happening with the goals for outpatient surgery, there were two things that really came to mind for that group related to how well we communicate with our patients about signs and symptoms of infection, what to expect during recovery, making sure that the instructions are consistent from the clinic to the hospital hospital. And so kudos to Heather and her team. They have done a ton of work working with McFarland to make sure that the discharge instructions match, working within the team to make sure that they're rotating which department board they're huddling at so that the team is all aligned. They're working together so that they can get in front of patients and talk about delays and when things are going to happen. I am not capturing everything, so please speak up. But there is a ton of work going on, and they are, this just captures the year to date, but there have been month over month improvements in outpatient surgery going from, I think it was the 25th percentile when we started last fiscal year, or at the beginning of this fiscal year, last calendar year, to very consistently 83rd, 85th, and in the 90th percentile this month. So very positive improvements in outpatient surgery, and something that you all should be very proud of. And then just like Karen said, in the emergency department, we had a great visit with Press Ganey last week, and their initial impression was the strong culture that Curtis and Stacy and Crystal have created in the emergency department related to patient experience. So many positive things happening. And it was obvious that all of those ADA validations that they'd been doing were absolutely effective. And so there was so much positive feedback for them and their team. And now digging into things like improving shift handoff and multidisciplinary huddles. And so I don't want to steal their thunder. I don't know if Stacy or Curtis are here or online, if there's anything they want to add, or Scott.
No, just excited to see where else we can go and where we end up this year and next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we talk about patient experience, you can see here the goal that we set for them this fiscal year to get to the 56th percentile, and they have worked so hard. And even Press Ganey, when they pulled their improvement compared to the American Hospital Association Region 6 and nationally, they're improving at a rate that it puts them in the top 30% of improvers. And so they are absolutely doing good work, and we just need to help support. So another thing that Press Ganey offered to us, they did observations of the whole experience from registration all the way through. They felt aided very consistently, but when we go into the emergency department, regardless of what discipline you are, we did really good with the hello and what we were doing while we were there, and not as good with closing the loop at the end. So whatever we can do to manage up the teams across the board and give the perception that we're all in this together and supporting the care that we're providing to our patients as a team, the better. So we'll close the loop with some good scripting to use so that we can improve consistency there, but that's something that we can do to help support the ED team as well. Okay. All right. That's all I got. And I'm going to turn it back to the big screen. Is that what you want?
This kind of view. Slides. You have stuff. You don't have anything? So I can use your time.
No. No. I thought you meant, do I have any slides?
Oh, just free. Tim, do you have those slides that I shared? I'm going to talk, like Joelle mentioned, similar update to what we do once a month with our senior leaders. Mine always looks a little bit different, not with all of the numbers and the data that Joelle shows, but I'll talk about two different things. And one is really it's hard to give an update about workforce because we're kind of right in the middle of our employee engagement survey. So look for more of an update when it comes to next month. But one thing with IROM that is not on my slide. So quick update with that. So we have in our action plan for employee rounding, by the end of the second quarter, we would be at 33% compliance for our leaders to complete employee rounds per their compliance, whether it's every other month or quarterly or monthly. At the end of the third quarter, it was 66% was the number that we were aiming for. And by the end of this quarter, our goal was 100%. Any guesses where we might be right now according to what Press Ganey provides us for employee rounding? Gary says 25. Do I hear 30?
Yeah.
I wish. It's 23. So as of last month, we're at 23. So I know that I've heard from a lot of you that I do have conversations. I do meet with employees. I just don't document it. And that is where we want to improve. So we have a lot of opportunity for improvement with that. So what that means is that we've kind of taken a step back and looked very closely at what are the questions, what is the platform, what is the tool that we're using, and how can we remove barriers to make that easier for all of us. We've also taken a look at our survey questions. Are we asking questions in employee rounding that we can directly tie back to the survey? So look for information to come about that as we work through that. We're working closely with Press Ganey. As you know, we also have Oracle that does have an opportunity, a tool within their platform to be able to use. So some opportunity to come. So more on that. I'll give you a quick update on just where we are with the engagement survey. I am mindful of the time, and I have noted that I'm last on the agenda last month also. So, oh, Gary, you're last. Sorry, never mind. I'm not last. I'm close to. I'm preventing Gary from getting up here. So as a reminder, for our workforce engagement and safety big dot goal, we are currently in the midst of our engagement survey. Hopefully that is not a surprise to anyone. It sounds familiar. Just nod your head like a lot to know that I'm speaking to the right people here. Here are our goals again, and I shared this at management team last time, but as a reminder, we did that pulse survey. That was our temperature check. This is what we're actually measuring against the survey that we took last spring. So our goal is that we want to be at that 83rd percentile ranking or higher. So we want to meet that. And then we have this unwritten rule or unwritten goal of our response rate. So our goal is to get to 85%, which is what we were at last spring, again, or higher. The reason why that is so important and what I've reiterated when I've come up and talked about this is every voice matters. So the more people that we are hearing from, the more robust our survey results will be, the data that we'll get from the survey results. So those are our goals. Here is where we're at. While I was sitting up there, I hit refresh a few times. So we're now actually at 58%. It does sometimes change that quickly. And I won't tell you how many times I hit refresh in a day. Scott, you probably do too.
58, 935 responses.
Okay, I knew you'd have it saved as a favorite up on your screen. So as a reminder, that survey ends 11:59 p.m. on April 28th. So that is a Tuesday. There are 2 more incentive drawings. So encourage your staff to participate in the survey, help them find the time to take the survey. I know a large number of you have probably already taken the survey. If it is not all of those nursing questions, it really doesn't take very long. But they estimated 15 minutes maximum if you have all of those nursing questions. So keep that in mind. I've got the 2 survey winners, the random winners that were selected today. So someone from Dietary, Jack, and then Catherine and Medtelli were winners of a $50 gift card. So you too can have people in your areas that win those. So stay tuned. And then really I've shared this, but there's ways to take the survey. questions that I have gotten were, I can't find the survey link. It could be possible that people got delete happy and it's maybe no longer there. Reach out to me. I'm happy to provide a generic link that they can take that survey. Otherwise, there's QR codes on the posters throughout the building, and they can access that by just typing in their badge number, their employee ID number, to be able to take that. I did send an email on April 10th. If you are looking for ways to energize, motivate, incentivize your staff to get them to participate or encourage them to participate in the survey, here's some ideas of ways that you can do that, when you can do it, whether it's a meeting for the department, a huddle, a fun email that you can send out, reminding them of the importance of it, things that we've done because of the survey. If you have a Facebook group, whatever there it might be, different ways that you can get the word out. I did reach out to a large number of you just to ask what were you doing to motivate our staff. And so those ideas are incorporated into that document that I shared on April 10th. So some ideas for you there. And then, as I mentioned, there's going to be a lot more updates to this particular Big Dot goal starting next month after our survey closes. But we will have May 19th, Press Ganey will be on site, and they will do what they call an executive overview. So they'll do that with the senior leader team the week prior, and then they'll come in and all of you will have the opportunity to see the results. You'll have access to your results right prior to that, but that will be an opportunity for you to hear them explain some of the data. We've had that happen before. Tracy has been here. Tracy will not be here this time. It will be a different person, but same type of presentation and same type of share out that will happen. For those of you that have not participated in this kind of overview as before, that is an opportunity for you to hear about the survey, but then please know that we will also follow that with online live training sessions. So you'll be online with someone looking at the dashboard, looking at the org-wide results, being able to ask questions about the survey, about the results, and what that might look like. So stay tuned for next month. What questions, if any, do you have about workforce engagement, survey, employee rounding? Yes.
My PRN people, can we send them the QR code to their home email address?
You sure can. I can also give you the generic link if that's easier.
Either way.
They do not need to take it, but I know how we are, that we want to get as many people to take it, right, as we can. So keep in mind that it might take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, right, for them to complete it. So it'd be paid time, but we can sure do that and send it to their personal email. Yep. I'll send you the link so you have it. Okay. And as of right now, Josh will not have results, but you'll be able to share with him. And then you're in on the next one, Josh. Okay. Okay. Two other quick things. Our intern, Sarah, put together, she wanted to do something for leaders. So on the back, you will see a flyer and she'll send out some communication. So she put together an activity for May Day. She asked Stacy Peterson for some suggestions and ideas. So you all have the opportunity to put together your own May Day basket, or you can share it with someone. Roger, you look really excited about the May Day baskets. Yeah. Okay. So details are back there, but she wanted to put something together for that for all of you. And yes, I sent out the I&E invites. They should be on your calendar. All leaders are invited. Everyone that was nominated, everyone that was awarded, and everyone that nominated someone was invited. So a lot of people. More details and nomination letters will actually come out very soon. So Gary, you have 2 minutes. Sorry.
Talk to Joelle about timers.
Okay.
Should have worn green.
Okay. So we get to end on how we're doing from operating margin point of view. And who knows where we're at year to date? Anybody? -1, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll try it on the other side. So yes, if I can get this to work, I'll show you never mind. It's okay. I only was going to show the or the one slide. So yeah, through March, we're at about a -1. And while that doesn't feel good, it's significantly ahead of what we budgeted to be at this point in the year. Through March 31st, we had budgeted to be at -4.7. And you recall, those of you who were at LI last summer when we were working through this and setting our goals for the year, we said we wanted to end the year no worse than -5.2, knowing the effects of the surgery center and all that was going to come with that. So I project right now we're going to end the year somewhere around -3. Okay, so we're going to end the year better than budget, so that's great. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this right now because we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this at LI next Tuesday. I'm going to walk you through where we're at, showing you some real numbers, where I think we're going to project to be at the end of the year, and then a preliminary view of a high-level fiscal 27 budget. And I think we're going to have our work cut out for us next year. And so we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about that. There's probably going to be some small group breakout sessions. Lori's going to be here to walk you through what she sent out here recently. We'll have some time to do some working sessions on that as well. But yeah, so far so good. The focus has been, throughout the year, those variable departments managing their FTEs to their volume and using the Strata tools both on expense and FTEs. I think by and large, as an organization, we've done pretty well at that. I will challenge us to start thinking ahead of LI next week about how we have to approach things, I believe, a little bit differently in the future. I don't know that we have a level set mindset across the organization to think about what it means to be financially constrained. And so when we have people making requests of things that are new and nice to haves versus what does it take to take care of our patients and do the jobs we're here to do? So, and that means we may have to think about things a little differently. We've been pretty blessed in the last several decades to be able to provide pretty much whatever we wanted. And so we'll talk more about that next Tuesday. I'm finished with Big Dot Goals, and I guess I'm also going to wrap us up. So who has any announcements before we break? Baby Friendly wraps up tomorrow. Yes, Steve.
End of the month, starts April 27th. We're participating in the United Way food drive again. We're trying to spice it up a little bit this year. We're doing something with dietary. Details to come. It'll make it easier for you to donate. You don't have to bring a can in. You spend a little money in dietary. We're arranging for inventory, some inventory that dietary is going to put together for us that staff will have the ability to buy, and that will be contributed to United Way. We'll also have the rack out in case you want to clean out the canned goods in your bomb shelter.
All right. Anybody else? All right. We're 2 minutes past. Have a good day.